Well, hello, boys and girls. Thank you for joining me today for this story time. I wonder, do you guys know what this special day is? It only happens once a year. Do you know? Well, today is called Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day? What is Groundhog Day? Well, today is a day when we celebrate the groundhog coming out of the ground, and two things could happen. One, the groundhog sees a shadow, gets scared, and runs back into his hole. Or he doesn't see his shadow and he hangs around outside. Well, why do we need to know this? So it is told that if the groundhog sees his shadow and goes back into his hole and hides out for a little while, that winter is gonna happen for 6 more weeks. Now, if the groundhog doesn't see his shadow and he stays outside and hangs around, then that means spring is coming early. Well, how many of you guys want spring to come early, huh? I kind of do. I miss flowers and trees having leaves and the warm weather, but we'll have to see. You should ask your mommies and daddies if the groundhog saw his shadow or not today, and then we'll see if we get spring sooner or if winter's gonna stay around for a little while. Well, because today is Groundhog Day, we're gonna read a story about Groundhog Day, but before we do that, we have to sing our song, and Mr. Polar Bear is here to sing with us. And we have done our song for the last 2 weeks, so how about we just go ahead and do it, and we'll do it twice. So here you go, with our polar bears, if you have a polar bear at home, or you can pretend to be the polar bear. Let's go ahead and do it. Polar bear, turn around. Polar bear, touch the ground. He's down on the ground. Polar bear, roar real loud. Roar! And polar bear, sit right down. There you go. He's sitting down. Let's do it one more time. Polar bear, turn around. Polar bear, touch the ground. Polar bear, roar real loud. Roar! And polar bear, touch the ground or sit right down. There you go. He's sitting down and he's ready for our story. Are you guys sitting down with your hands in your lap and ready for your story? Okay, let's go ahead and read it, and it's called Mr. Groundhog Wants a Day Off. He wants a day off? Well, let's go ahead and we'll read our story.
Mr. Groundhog Wants a Day Off, written by Pat Stemper Voida. I will not do Groundhog Day anymore, said Mr. Groundhog. I am tired of everyone getting mad at me. They see my shadow and blame me for 6 more weeks of winter. I quit! Mr. Groundhog stood next to the hole in the ground where he lived in the park. Everyone would wait there to see him on Groundhog Day. He jogged around the park to help him think. He stopped fast when he saw he was nose to nose with Mrs. Rabbit. "Oh, hello, Mrs. Rabbit," said Mr. Groundhog. Mrs. Rabbit smiled. "Will you do Groundhog Day for me this year?" asked Mr. Groundhog. "I'm sorry, I can't. I'm much too busy getting ready for Easter. I have eggs to color, and I must practice the bunny hop to lead the parade. But I have something for you." Mrs. Rabbit lifted the lid of a trunk. She pulled out a vest. "This was my grandfather's special occasion vest. You would look very nice wearing this on Groundhog Day." "Thank you," said Mr. Groundhog. He slipped the vest on and continued his walk. He then met Mr. Turtle. "Hi, Mr. Turtle. Would you mind doing Groundhog Day for me?" asked Mr. Groundhog. "All you have to do is come out and greet the crowd of people." "I would, but I can't fit in that small opening of your home. My shell would get stuck," exclaimed Mr. Turtle. "But I have something for you." Mr. Groundhog followed Mr. Turtle to a cluster of bushes. Mr. Turtle reached in and lifted out a hat. "This is my holiday hat. I want you to wear it on Groundhog Day," said Mr. Turtle. "Thank you," Mr. Groundhog said as he put on the hat. Next he saw Mrs. Squirrel. "Mrs. Squirrel, will you do Groundhog Day for me?" "I'm sorry, but I would be too afraid to go down into the dark hole to get to your home. But I do have something for you," said Mrs. Squirrel. She reached up and broke some branches off a tree. "You can use one of these for a cane. It will look nice with your vest and hat." "Well, thank you," said Mr. Groundhog, as he hooked the branch around his arm. As Mr. Groundhog walked back home, he met Mrs. Raccoon. "Mr. Groundhog, you look very handsome. I have something for you," said Mrs. Raccoon. So she took a piece of ribbon off her head and tied it around Mr. Groundhog's neck. "Thank you," said Mr. Groundhog. The next morning, sunlight woke the sleeping groundhog. Mr. Groundhog got up and hurried into his outfit. With all his courage, he reached up and somersaulted out of the hole. He saw his shadow somersault along with him. Then Mr. Groundhog tipped his hat to the crowd. His shadow tipped its hat too. The band began to play. Mr. Groundhog reached out his arms and began to dance. His shadow danced too. Mr. Turtle looked at the ground and saw that he had a shadow. He began to dance. His shadow danced too. Mrs. Squirrel joined in. Soon everyone was dancing. "I never knew how much fun a shadow could be," said Mrs. Squirrel. "I'm looking forward to next Groundhog Day." Mr. Groundhog was happy. He smiled at his shadow and said, "Thank you, my friend. I'll see you again the next sunny day."
Well, boys and girls, that is all for our story today. I hope that you enjoyed it. Wasn't it nice how all of Mr. Groundhog's friends helped him out and encouraged him, and that they all enjoyed Groundhog Day and not just Mr. Groundhog? Well, if you like this story, make sure you stay tuned and you look at the book list, the pictures of books that I have that are very similar to this book and that I also have right here. Otherwise, I hope that you guys have a good rest of your week. Make sure that you're checking out our library's Facebook page, the Troy-Miami County Public Library or the Oaks-Spikeman Memorial Library. See what all we have to offer. Come into the library, check out some books, and until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.